Hello and welcome to my 2026 Shed Buyer's Guide. My name's Ben and I'm with STL Sheds, and we sell Amish-built sheds, garages, cabins, and all sorts of other portable buildings here in the St. Louis area. Now, I've been selling these buildings for about 4 years now, and over that time I've learned a lot of things that most buyers don't tend to think about until it's too late. Now, my goal with this video is to share with you what I've learned so you can make a confident, informed decision when it comes time for you to buy your building. Because let's face it, these things aren't cheap. And for a lot of people, this is a one-time purchase. So before you spend your money, let's touch on some of the most common mistakes I see people make when they start shopping for a shed. The first big mistake that I see people make is assuming that a shed is a shed. From the outside, a lot of these buildings can look very similar. But what's underneath, how it's framed, how the floor is built, how the roof's supported, the type of warranty that the builder gives, that can all be completely different. And those differences, they don't always show up right away. But time will always expose a cheaply built shed. Another mistake that I see is buying a shed for what you need today instead of thinking a few years ahead. When people ask me what size shed they need, I almost never start with what they're using the shed for right now. I'll ask what they think they'll be using the shed for in 2, 3, 4 years down the road. As almost nobody comes back saying that they wish they went smaller. But we do have people that come back saying that they wish they would have gotten a shed just a little bit bigger. Because you're going to want to store more as the years go on, or maybe you want to turn your shed into a workshop. Either way, it's important to think about the future use of your shed when you're shopping around. So we've touched on a couple of the common problems that I see whenever people start shopping for a shed. But what can we do to avoid those problems? Let's start by talking about choosing the right size shed, okay? Like I said, when people come to me and say, what size shed should I get? I never focus on what they're going to use the shed for when it gets delivered, okay? I have them think about what they're going to be using the shed for 2, 3, 4 years down the road. Because we've never had anybody come back and say that they wish they would have gotten a smaller shed. But we have had people come back, and this past year, a handful of people worked out a deal with our builders where they actually exchanged their shed for a bigger one. Because they got it home, they filled it up, and they realized that they don't have any more room. You're planning to store stuff in your shed. So let's say you're cleaning out your garage so you can park your car in it. You clean out your garage, you fill up your shed. Bam, mission accomplished. You're telling me though, in the next 4, 5, 6, 10 years, you're not gonna have anything else that you're gonna need to store in there? So that's the problem, is people don't think down the road. Also, we're finding more and more that sheds are not just staying sheds. Storage sheds just aren't staying storage sheds anymore. People are turning them into workshops, backyard offices, man caves, she sheds, all that stuff. And once you start converting your shed a little bit, all of that extra space that you thought you had, even if it's just a little bit, it's gone instantly, right? So what I tell people is, if you're on the fence between two sizes, if your site allows it, if your budget allows it, it's always better to go with the bigger size. You're not going to be disappointed getting a slightly bigger shed, because it's a lot easier to grow into a space than it is to have to work around not having it. Next, let's talk about how you're actually going to use the shed, okay? And this is where I see a lot of people get tripped up. If you were adding on an addition, adding on a room to your house, you'd put a lot of time and thought into the location of the doors and the windows and the outlets and all that stuff. But when it comes to a shed in your backyard, a lot of people just see a box that you put stuff in, right? If you're just using your shed to store Christmas decorations and you're only going to be in and out of there a couple times a year, then maybe this step isn't as important to you, and that's fine. But if you're going to be using your shed with any sort of regularity, whether it's going to be a workshop, you're using your lawn equipment in and out of there, you're in and out of there often, you're really going to want to put some thought into the layout of the windows and the doors, and an extra door possibly, because all of that can make using your shed more comfortable and practical and less frustrating, right? Things like where you're standing to use your workbench, things like, you got to have the drawers to get your tools out of your toolbox, all of that stuff. If you don't put any thought into the layout, you're going to end up with a door in a weird spot, and now you're not going to be able to put your shelves there, or you're going to have a window here for ventilation, but you can't access that window because that's where I wanted to put my toolbox. And it seems obvious, but a lot of people don't really think about that. And so you got to take time to think about the layout of your shed. A shed can be the right size on paper, right? It can be the right square footage. But if it's not set up properly, it can feel awkward and frustrating to use. Next, let's talk about the actual construction of your building, okay? This is the part not a lot of sellers like to talk about. It's not fun, it's not flashy, and sometimes it can actually start to expose the faults in the buildings. The construction details, that's the main thing that's going to determine how long your building is going to last and how it feels to use on a day-to-day basis, okay? Framing, floors, doors, that all plays a role in the performance of your shed, okay? Floors and doors, the most common failure points that I see. Why? Because every time you use your building, what are you using? You're coming in the door, you're walking on the floor. If you have a cheaply made flooring system, let's say you're walking on 24-inch on center floor joists, it's gonna feel like a trampoline, okay? If your door's not sturdy, it's gonna sag, it's not gonna close right, it's gonna be frustrating to use. Every time you walk to that shed, you're gonna be frustrated because you got a saggy door and a trampoline floor, okay? In 2026, material costs are going up. Okay, things aren't getting cheaper, but this is not the place to skimp on your building. It will just lead to more problems down the road. Just be aware, I'm seeing a lot of builders include an economy shed. What they're doing is they're just underbuilding their regular sheds. They're spacing out the wall joists more, spacing out the floor joists more, giving you less paint options, giving you a 1-year warranty. And they're doing all that in an attempt to pass it off as a more affordable model. But in reality, what you're getting a cheaper built product that when you start shopping around, doesn't actually end up being that much cheaper. In short, in my opinion, it's a trap for people who don't do their research and for people who don't know better. Next, let's talk about delivery and site prep. Our buildings typically get delivered fully constructed. That means if you're getting a 10-foot wide building, you're gonna need at least an 11-foot, ideally a 12-foot wide gap to get the building where you want it. Not everybody has that much space, whether they have a fence or a neighbor or whatever. So you have a couple options. You can either downsize a little bit, or we do, and often companies do, have build on site options. That does carry an extra fee. You need to be aware of that when you're planning out your build. If you can't get the building delivered fully built, you're gonna have to pay to have the crew come and install it. With site prep, you do have a couple options. Our buildings, everything from the floor down is pressure treated lumber. So theoretically, our buildings can sit right on the ground, and I tell people, as long as it's sitting in a well-draining part of your yard, you should be good to go. Our drivers do level the buildings out with some extra pressure treated lumber when it gets dropped off to make sure the doors line up right and work properly. But if it's too unlevel, I've seen them get blocked up pretty high, but that's not ideal. You know, maybe a 6-inch difference, not too bad. But once you start getting up on a hill, you're gonna need to have somebody to come in and do some landscaping work to kind of get you a level space to put your shed. Some people choose to get a gravel pad. I think a gravel pad is great. It provides great drainage away from your shed. If you get it nice and bordered, it looks nice. Sometimes they just excavate out the dirt and fill it in with gravel to bring it back up to grade. That's nice and practical too. Some people choose to go with a concrete pad. A lot of times we only see that in 2 situations. 1, where permitting requires it, or 2, if they're planning on having the building delivered with no floor, and then the walls get anchored to the concrete pad, basically giving you a concrete floor. The last thing to talk about, and it's the boring stuff, permits, codes, HOA, that kind of stuff. Now, this is the hardest thing to really give blanket advice on. The best thing you can do is just go down to your city hall or check your HOA rules and see what they allow. Because some cities and counties don't care. You can fill out a permit and you're good to go. Some places want detailed blueprint drawings. Some HOAs only allow you to have vinyl siding sheds, not wood siding sheds. And all of that, there's the argument to be had. You should be able to do whatever you want to do on your property, but that's just not the reality. That way you don't get your shed delivered and then you get a letter in the mail saying you're going to be getting fined in a week if you don't alleviate the problem, right? But that's, yeah, I can't, every case by case is different. You got to look it up yourself. Oftentimes we can give you a hand. Dealers will know the surrounding areas, the rules typically. But yeah, you got to do a little bit of homework on that one, unfortunately. And yeah, I think we're getting close to the end of my 2026 Shed Buyer's Guide. I hope this was helpful. Sheds are being used differently now. When I was little, sheds were spider-infested buildings in the backyard that you were scared to go in. Last year, we sold more tiny homes than we ever had. We have more and more interest in insulation and electrical options. People are expecting higher quality out of these buildings because, like I said before, they're not cheap. You know, if you're buying a $5,000, $6,000 shed, it's probably a one-time purchase, and you want to make sure you're not getting ripped off, okay? If you take nothing else away from this guide, just remember, slow down, ask questions. Make sure you're comparing apples to apples. Make sure you understand why this shed is $500 more than this shed. A good shed should solve a problem, okay? It shouldn't create more issues. If you want help, reach out, shoot me a message, leave me a comment. I am more than happy to help. That is the purpose of me making these videos. Sure, there's some sort of motive that it could possibly lead to a shed sale down the road, right? But ultimately, I don't see a lot of information about this stuff being put online for people who don't have construction or DIY backgrounds. So I want to make sure that you're not getting swindled. I want to make sure you feel comfortable. I want to make sure you have all the information available. That way, when you get your shed and it gets delivered, it's a happy day, not a frustrating day, not a day that you wish you would have gotten a bigger shed, not a day that you wish you would have gotten a different color, or you would have done something different, okay? Thank you if you took the time to watch this video. Like I said, if you need any help, have any questions, send me a message, and welcome to 2026.